Coming to you from deep inside our lofty, heavily fortified bunker, located somewhere in the heart of Middle Earth, the show that doesn't shy away from tough questions or tough answers. Sit back, turn on your brain, and get ready for truth. It's a dirty job, but hey, somebody has to do it.
Hey, yo! This is
Hi.
the David Allen Show. We're back.
We are.
I mean, not that we really left anywhere, but we're back, and we're in studio. Shockingly enough. How are you?
Good. How about you?
Dynamite.
So,
So good. So good.
well, I'm just thinking, if you're not a normal, or if English wasn't your first language and you're just learning it,
Uh-huh.
and somebody said, "How are you doing?" and you said dynamite.
Oh, that may not be good. Is that what you're
Well,
saying?
maybe, or they're like, well, "Are you going to die now?" Alakpa, run! It could mean a lot of things.
Right. Right. Let's see here.
Here?
I was digging around the archives of this show.
Oh, that's never a good
no,
thing.
no. Because the last time we talked in the middle, or since we've talked on air, we had a mishap that we kind of called, that we anticipated would be. I was shocked at the speed of which it happened. And I also learned a lot of things.
Are you referring to a certain large social media company?
Yeah.
Actually doing some censorship?
Yeah. So 23 hours after our last show that we, and this is necessary to understand, I think. We've had a channel on the YT, we'll call it, which we're here live today. So we have had a YouTube channel for the David Allen Show from the beginning. We started the show 2016.
Yeah, we did. But you're talking about the company that is it is the number of one with 100 zeros behind it. They own another company that plays movies and
our language is based off of a series of 26 letters that we call the alphabet.
right.
Coincidentally, there's a company called that is a parent company, and they own other conglomerates of tech. Anyway, YouTube, the platform we are currently on, again live, and we were on that time. But I want you to keep in mind, this is dragging on way too long. We've had the channel for 6 years, nearly, and never used it, ever. We've never, ever put anything on there. We had absolutely 0 subscribers. And currently, I think there's 1.
So we increased exponentially.
And it's
I
quite
guess.
likely that was someone that might be in the room
Uh-huh.
on a different account. That's not the point. The point is,
We're not movers and shakers.
well, I mean, we're certainly not going to get any interviews with Steven Crowder because we don't have the reach on YouTube that he does. Anyway, 0 subscribers. Zero.
How many?
0.
Okay.
And we, as we do always, believe in free speech and the free expression of ideas.
Right.
And so we don't censor ourselves.
Right.
Now, we tend to be not mean.
Well, it depends upon who you... There might be a few microaggressions.
We tend to be. But there's a couple. Anyway, you never know how that works. But the within 24 hours, we got a letter
That's great.
that said, hi, David Allen Show. Our team has reviewed your content, and unfortunately, we think it violates our medical misinformation policy. Hold on, let me say that again. Our medical misinformation policy. And so we've removed the following content 23 hours after it streamed live.
Mhm.
Keeping in mind, 0 subscribers, and I think it got up to 7 views. And those, and that is
Oh.
like someone, and so I have no clue what that meant. I mean,
It means soon the money's coming.
Yeah.
Or it was
yep.
until they destroyed our financial model.
and they said, we know that this might be disappointing, but it's important to us that YouTube is a safe place for all. All. Safe. If content breaks our rules, we remove it. If you think we've made a mistake, you can appeal and we'll take another look. Keep reading for more details. So, the next line says why. How did our content violate the policy? Well, YouTube doesn't allow claims about the C 1 less than 20.
And the letter that, or the word,
The
the first
J.
letter.
Well, we'll go to England. The jab.
Yeah, okay.
That may work. We'll
Or
see.
poke.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it would be funny
Ah.
if you read this verbatim and then we got another one of those. It would be like when you have a mirror.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
that,
yes. Yes.
that
Is that called Inception or some bizarre?
where you look, you have a mirror in
Yeah.
front of you and back of
Mhm.
you, and it just keeps on going for forever. That would be interesting if they if we violated it by
reading their letter.
what they said to us.
We might break this show into a couple streams as a test.
But anyways, I'm
Yeah.
sorry for
Yeah.
for
So, for those of you listening on the podcast world, which is still apparently open to free speech and free thought, thank you for hanging out with us. But we were trying something with the video side of things. So, YouTube does not allow claims about the C 1 less than 20 jab that contradict expert consensus from local health authorities or the
Jukebox Hero. No, or what's the song by them? It's a jukebox.
it's Pete Townsend. That's all. I know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's call it the Pete.
The
or
Pete
or the Daltrey.
The PT.
Yeah.
The PT. I like it.
Okay.
The Townsend.
Okay.
All right. Now, it was a warning. It was a first because with no subscribers, none. Of course, it's going to be the first because we don't put any content up. It's a warning because we're going to let you know. Warning. All right. So then you go to learn more. So I learned more. Now, this page I did not know exists. They have in the YouTube policies, which can be found at support.google.com/youtube/answer/9891785 if you're interested.
I am.
The COVID-19 medical misinformation.
Policy.
Okay. I'm going to move this on the screen so I can see it better without staring off the camera too much. I'm still there, but all right. So the C 1 less than 20 medical misinformation policy. There's a little light bulb, which means it's a thing you need to learn. Bing! Wake up call. The safety of our creators, viewers, and partners is our highest priority. We look to each of you to help us protect this unique and vibrant community. It's important you understand our community guidelines and the role they play in our shared responsibility to keep YouTube safe.
Isn't that interesting how they defined anything that and yeah. Anyways, keep going.
Yeah.
Their definition of safety is yeah.
Take the
interesting.
time to carefully read the policy below. You can also check out another page for a full list of guidelines, which I kind of did, and there's some fascinating rules that, unless you dig into that, I bet they could almost remove everything if they wanted to, with the lists of rules that they have.
Well, there's an attorney who created or who wrote this book called 3 Felonies a Day, I think it was called. Anyways, he said that the average person commits up to like around 3 felonies a day, so that the government, if they wanted to, could prosecute anybody. All they'd have to do, it's like a cop who follows behind a car and just waiting for them to swerve so they can use that as a pretext to pull them over. So,
or see, they have. Sorry, you had an air freshener hanging from the mirror of your car?
or whatever. I thought the tint
that
was
might have
too
just
dark.
happened. Oh yeah. And then they pull out this business card that they have to hold up. Roll down your window so I can get my hand inside your personal private vehicle and then see if your window's too dark.
Yeah.
Nope.
Or roll down their window so that I can sniff. I think I smelled marijuana.
Yeah, have you been? Yeah.
Can I search your car?
Absolutely.
Well, if you can't, then we'll
If
have to
you
rinse it
smell
off.
what the rock is cooking.
The YouTube doesn't allow content about C1 less than 20.
I think you actually said it. I think when you were reading it.
Because it's
right
the
at
headline.
begin-
So, okay, this is verbatim.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and just say the words they say
Yeah.
because this is in the actual policy that we're supposed to abide by.
Right.
So if we break something by abiding by reading the policy that we're supposed to abide by. Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I didn't see that one.
Oh, baby, this gets good. All right. So
This is propaganda. Oh, wow.
YouTube does not allow content about COVID-19 that poses a serious risk of egregious harm. Would you mind looking up egregious?
Sure.
Or what is egregious? Egregious harm. That's like bad.
Let's see. Egregious.
Clickety-clack keyboard.
I guess how long it's taking to load it is egregious.
It's egregious, yes.
Come on.
All right.
You can do it.
I probably could have just done it here and beat you.
Okay, it's coming. Outstandingly bad. Shocking.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Take that for what it's worth. YouTube doesn't allow content that spreads medical misinformation that contradicts local health authorities or the World Health Organization's medical information about COVID-19.
Synonyms: shocking, appalling, horrific, horrifying, horrible, terrible, awful, dreadful, grievous, gross, ghastly, hideous, horrendous, frightful, atrocious, abominable, abhorrent, outrageous, monstrous, nightmarish, heinous, harrowing, dire, unspeakable, shameful, flagrant, glaring, blatant, scandalous, unforgivable, unpardonable, intolerable.
Unpardonable harm. Wow.
Yeah. Sorry.
Huh. All right.
Should I use it in a sentence?
They just did. This is limited to content that contradicts the WHO or local health authorities' guidance on the following: treatment, prevention, diagnosis, transmission, social distancing, and self-isolation guidelines,
Now,
and the existence of COVID-19.
Now, you notice they said or.
Yeah. Yeah.
They said local health authorities to make you think that there is some kind of consultation.
Right. Yeah.
But if it violates if the local health authorities say something different than the World Health Organization, then they go
They'll
to
stay with Pete.
Yeah.
All right. So here's what this policy means for you. So this policy was published on May 20, 2020, which means it is more than a year old. New information has come to light since then, which we won't get into yet. But new information has come to light, which might change some of this. But
I don't think Pete made any
Pete
changes.
hasn't. That's a very good point. You're right. What this policy means for you, and that means us, if you are posting content, don't post content on the YouTube if it includes any of the following. All right, so now we're into the treatment misinformation. These are the rules that YouTube has laid out, the guideline for this is information you may not post on their platform.
Okay.
This is treatment misinfo. So, content that encourages the use of home remedies, prayer, or rituals in place of medical treatment, such as consulting a doctor or going to the hospital. Now, interestingly, a side note, the official the official guidance when you were ill with this disease, this illness, the official rule was you contacted the doctor and they said, stay home. Don't come in here. We don't want you. Stay home until it's bad enough to where you have to be admitted.
Yeah.
So, fine. But you may not post content that claims that there's a guaranteed cure for COVID-19. Okay? You cannot post content that recommends the use of ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine for the treatment of COVID-19. Now, I say those words out loud because they're written. These are the two medicines that YouTube specifically calls out by name, saying you may not post about them.
That you recommend the use of them.
Right, in the treatment. This is all we're talking about is treatment misinformation. We're going to get to prevention and diagnosis later. Treatment.
I think that you don't not use ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine. Don't not use it.
That's good. Content, let's see. You may not post content that claims. See, here's the next step. You can't post content that recommends it. You also can't post content that claims that ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine are effective treatments for COVID-19. I would like everyone to go maybe consider watching the the Dark Horse podcast with Brett Weinstein of a couple of, I think last week. He had the creator
Of
of
mRNA.
mRNA vaccine technology on. And it's quite possible that this information contradicted what that guy said. But I'm not going to say that out loud because I don't know. I'm no scientist.
You look like one, though. I mean, if I had to guess.
It's the beard.
Yeah.
You may not post content that other content that discourages people from consulting a medical professional or seeking medical advice. We would never do that. We would never encourage someone to not seek proper medical advice. Not once.
Okay.
All right, that was the treatment misinformation we are not allowed to post on this YouTube. Now, prevention misinformation. Content that promotes prevention methods that contradict local health authorities or the WHO. Claims, these are, again, things you cannot post. Claims that there is a guaranteed prevention method for COVID-19, and a subcategory of that claims that any medication or vaccination is a guaranteed prevention method for COVID-19. Now, I would almost say there are a lot of mainstream official authoritative medical professionals that have made the claim. Now, a lot of them are walking them back now, but they have made the claim that the jab, as they say in England, is a guaranteed. Now, it's not me saying that. That is me listening to the official authorities saying that. And then they've had to walk that back and say, oh, we didn't really mean it guaranteed it done. We meant it wasn't going to be as bad.
Well, the way they said it, you could take it as if they were implying that it's a guarantee.
Yes, it would be very easy to do that. Correct. You may not post content that recommends the use of, here we go again, of ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine for the prevention of COVID-19. You may not post making claims that wearing a mask is dangerous or causes negative physical health effects. I would love to ask the high school athlete in Oregon that passed out at the finish line of her track meet after being forced to cover her face the entire run. I would love to ask her if there was any adverse effect, but we won't be doing that.
To see what she had to say.
Absolutely.
You're not
yeah.
implying
No,
that it caused.
No,
We're not.
no.
We're not making that claim.
Not remotely. You may not post claims that masks do not play a role in preventing the contraction or transmission of COVID-19. You may not make claims about, and this has a big subcategory of this one, about COVID-19 vaccinations that contradict expert consensus from local health authorities or the WHO. The WHO, not the WHO, not the band. WHO.
I'd like to know the definition of expert there.
Would that be in the glossary?
It probably wouldn't, because the more vague you write it, the more.
Right.
So basically, hi, I'm Flo. I'm at the front desk at the WHO. And they're an expert because they work for the WHO.
Right. I'm the janitor.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to sell Progressive Insurance for a second.
Yeah.
Not a sponsor. Claims that no, here we go. These are things you can't post again. Claims that an approved COVID-19 vaccine, which I will jump all day long on a soapbox that says we do not currently have an approved COVID-19 vaccine. One does not exist, because when you read the paperwork that you get given when you accept the shot, the jab, the vaccine, it tells you in black and white letters there is no approved vaccination. It says these have been authorized under an emergency use because there is a pandemic, an official pandemic in place.
But again, the approved is vague enough. Approved by who? And I think the operative word here is will. You could say may.
Yeah, claims that it will cause, that the vaccine will cause death, infertility, miscarriage, autism, or contraction of other infectious disease. So
if you say
I guess you just say it's possible.
It may cause.
Yeah. But then if we go back to the letter that we got, the reason our thing got removed was because it doesn't allow claims about the vaccination that contradict expert consensus. May contradicts expert consensus.
Well, what about Drudge Report just came out? Did you see the headline just now?
Negative.
Go to it. Red. It's in red.
The CDC finds more heart inflammation after vax. That is a headline read directly off the DRudge. This is an article from CNBC posted approximately 10 minutes ago. Today being June 23, 2021 at roughly 2:34 in the PM Central
Or it was
time.
updated 10 minutes ago.
Updated. CDC Safety Group says there's a likely link between a rare heart inflammation in young people after the COVID shot.
But this doesn't apply based upon because it's the CDC, not the WHO.
Correct.
So
Correct. So this still, again, we're analyzing news here, YouTube.
So
We're not making a claim. We're analyzing news.
So the YouTube could, if CNBC had a report about this, YouTube could take this report down from CNBC.
It sure sounds like it, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
But see, now the official authorities have done a pretty good job discrediting VAERS, the vaccine, what is it, adverse
reaction,
adverse event reaction, some system reporting system, adverse event something, where everything that they can gets reported to VAERS.
I mean, some of it's legit.
Well, we know it's legit because I read an article the other day that was listed on NPR News, Minnesota Public Radio. They had a story that was trying to discredit VAERS and saying, oh, it's being misused. VAERS is being misused by anti-vaxxers is what they claimed. And then they're talking about how it's such a conglomeration of data. It's self-reported. There's no proof behind it. It's all this stuff. But then deep down, there was a quote from someone in, I believe it's run by the FDA, someone in that group that says, well, we want to keep it open and free because the medical establishment would like it to be closed. So you can't just go get the data because anybody could get that data and they don't know how to actually read it, is what they claim. Well, what this person was quoted in the story saying is, well, we want to keep it that way because we do actually find a lot of adverse effects from vaccines by using this reported data. So which is it? It either is it's valuable information that proves things, or it's a joke.
Well, it depends upon if there's a scientist or a medical professional, or to use YouTube's wording, a medical expert. If there is one who's interested in finding the truth that doesn't have a political bias one way or another, versus somebody who believes that if you shut this down, more people are going to be vaccinated, which is what they want, whether for good or ill, because some people, invariably, some of these scientists or some of the people that are pushing the jab legitimately believe that the ends justify the means. So it doesn't matter if you have to lie, cheat, or steal.
Yeah.
People are stupid, and we know better than they. So we're trying to get them, whether we trick them, whether we say whatever, to get them to have the vaccine so that they won't get COVID and won't get sick and won't die. There are legitimate people that believe that.
Oh, yeah.
And have no problem where the ends justify the means.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, and it's not like there are people on both sides of politics that hold that view. So,
absolutely.
So that's got nothing to do with politics, even though this apparently is a political problem, which I think is insane. All right. You cannot, we're going back to this. We'll be done with this in a minute, but it just blew my mind with the depth that they have gone to
and this
create
is just
this policy.
one thing.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? I mean, I can't imagine. I wonder if Epstein, his death. I wonder.
J.E.?
Yeah. I wonder if you can get kicked off based upon talking about him and saying that he did not die by his own hand.
I don't know.
Because if you did, then you'd have to have a full list of reasons why.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wonder how many subjects have this comprehensive list of things that you can or cannot say.
Well, it's fascinating to me, and I mean, after looking at all this, I just wonder why. How did it come about that there needed to be such an in-depth list of rules of what you're allowed and not allowed to say about one thing?
Is it derangement syndrome? Our previous president's derangement syndrome? Where people are like, it started out there and people are on this train.
But no, see, I don't know if that's the case, because near the end, he was running the same talking points. I mean, the crowing of the jab getting done so fast, that's his all day long.
Well, yeah, yes, it is. But his followers, predominantly, it wasn't. So if somebody is vehemently against the jab.
If that's the case, this company, YouTube, who built this policy, is absolutely partisan, 100%.
Oh, well, I think that's completely and totally obvious so many times over. But it's strange that Dark Horse that you were talking about, Brett Weinstein, I mean, he has a PhD in evolutionary
Biology. Both him and his wife are evolutionary biologists. They're
and his brother
brilliant.
is Eric Weinstein,
Yeah.
who did come out and was talking about Jeffrey Epstein and believes that Jeffrey Epstein was a construct from an intelligence service. And they're Jewish, and they're liberal Jewish. So these are not people that would...
Yeah, these aren't Trump people.
Yeah, in any way, shape, or form.
No.
Anyways, I'm sorry for going on that.
No, this is good.
Wabbit. Go ahead.
You may not make claims that an approved vaccine will contain substances that are not on the vaccine ingredient list. Now, see, here's another way that can be twisted. Because, yes, it's true that you're not allowed to make claims that an approved vaccine will contain substances that are not on the vaccine ingredient list, such as biological matter from fetuses, e.g. fetal tissue, fetal cell lines, or animal products. Fascinatingly enough, the emergency use authorization does not require them to put the entire ingredient list out. It's unapproved. They're covered. YouTube is absolutely covering because I'm not allowed to make a claim about an approved vaccine.
So this seems to be like what county or district attorneys do. Somebody robs somebody at gunpoint and they charge them with assault, battery, armed robbery in the first degree, in the second degree, in the third degree, down the line, and using any of them to make it stick so that the person will so that it won't have to go to trial or whatever. But in the same way, it seems like they will do all of this so that they can come up with any excuse to get rid of a video that doesn't support the propaganda line that they're trying to push.
Right.
Anyways, sorry, keep going.
You may not post claims that an approved vaccine will contain substances or devices meant to track or identify those who've received it. You may not post claims that an approved vaccine, COVID-19 vaccine, will alter a person's genetic makeup. You cannot make claims that COVID-19 vaccines do not reduce risk of contracting COVID-19. You cannot make claims that any vaccine causes contraction of COVID-19. You may not make claims that a specific population will be required by any entity except for a government to take part in vaccine trials or receive the vaccine first. What does that by any entity except for a government? So we can make a claim that a government is going to force a certain specific population to get the shot first?
You could say the government would do it, but you can't say YouTube would do it. Right?
I think so.
Huh. Well, I don't know. And is that a problem?
Yeah, I don't know. Is it?
By any entity? What about, like, okay, space aliens are going to require it, but that's bad, but if our government does it, then that's okay? I don't know. I don't know what they're coming to.
Yeah,
Anyways.
Who does? Who does, really? You may not post content that promotes the use of unapproved or homemade COVID-19 vaccines. Well, crap. How can anyone talk about the current emergency use authorized vaccine? They are unapproved.
But, again, it's got to be the definition of
yeah, but it's
unapproved.
wishy-washy. You can go both sides of this thing.
Right.
You may, this is fascinating, you may not post instructions to counterfeit vaccine certificates or offers of sale for such documents. Now,
what if you just give them away?
You can't have instructions to counterfeit them, but you don't need instructions. You can go to almost any clinic site. I think the CDC, or they did, actually posts a blank version of it you can print off because that's what doctors do. Now, I'm not saying go do that, but All right, diagnostic misinformation. That's a shorty. You cannot post content that promotes diagnostic methods that contradict local health authorities or WHO. Okay, whatever. All right, transmission and misinformation. You may not post content that claims that COVID-19 is not caused by a viral infection. You may not post content that claims COVID-19 is not contagious. You may not post content that claims that COVID-19 cannot spread in certain climates or geographies. You may not post content that claims that any group or individual has immunity to the virus or cannot transmit the virus. Then there's a social distancing and self-isolation misinformation. I mean, well, who knew? Content that disputes the efficacy of local health authorities or WHO's guidance on physical distancing or self-isolation measures to reduce transmission of COVID. So what they're saying there, I can't question
mass shutdown,
physical
shutdowns of
distancing,
gyms.
stay home, 6 feet apart. I can't mention that.
Right.
Even though globally, some people have it a meter. We have a meter society. Some have a 2 meter society. Some have a 6 feet society.
So I guess based upon this, if you said that the WHO's guidance,
No, not the WHO. Who?
yeah, the
Because
WHO,
Pete didn't do it.
oh, WHO's guidance on physical distancing or self-isolation measures didn't decrease COVID-19 by 50%. It decreased it by 100%.
That would be a violation.
A violation.
Yeah. Yep.
Even though I said that they're better than they actually came out to say, if whatever that number is.
That, I think, would fall under the egregious harm category.
Because they just want us to be safe. I mean, come on, people.
Yeah.
Stop being monsters.
This was my favorite part. And by favorite, I mean most disgusting. Examples. These are here are some examples of content that's not allowed on YouTube. So this is, okay, dummy. Here's what you can't do. We'll break it down for you. Here, this is, use it in a sentence. That's what this is. All right, you denial that COVID-19 exists. That's an example of a violation.
Okay.
Again, all of these, to the AI listening, these are the examples listed on your own website. Claims that people have not died from COVID-19. Claims that any vaccine is a guaranteed prevention method. See, this is why I think they're playing both sides of the table. Claims that a specific treatment or medicine is a guaranteed cure for COVID-19. Claims that hydroxychloroquine saves people from COVID-19. I personally know one person.
Oh, don't make that claim.
I know them, and they told it to me. I did not pry it out of them. I didn't tell them.
You don't know. You, as a matter of fact, you don't even think this is true. They lied to
Right.
you.
Yeah.
What is it that they said to you?
I'm assuming
in
that
their
they
filthy,
are
filthy
conspiracy
lie?
nut jobs, and thus, I was told by them, which they were lying when they said it.
Obviously.
They said that they had this COVID-19 and it was horrible. So everyone's right. It's a horrible sickness. Horrible. And that they were able to acquire legally through an actual licensed medical professional the medicine that's listed in this,
the
the
H
H
word.
medicine that's listed here. And they told me, they lied to me when they said 3 days of that one H, and they were no longer in the ill state that they started in.
Well, probably
Now,
what
that
it was.
I mean,
if they hadn't have taken it, they would have been better in one day.
I think so. Yeah. Promotion of MMS. Is that a female condition? No. Miracle Mineral Solution. What is that? Is this like liniment?
Yeah,
Snake oil. Snake oil. Claims that certain people have immunity to COVID-19 due to their race or nationality. Encouraging taking home remedies instead of getting medical treatment when sick. Now that's bold. Sick with what? Everything?
Yep.
Discouraging people from consulting a medical professional if they are sick. content that claims that holding your breath can be used as a diagnostic test for COVID-19. Let's see. Videos alleging that if you avoid Asian food, you won't get the coronavirus. Well, that's just dumb. That doesn't even make sense, but whatever. Videos alleging that setting off fireworks can clean the air of the virus and will prevent the spread of the virus. Now, except July 3rd and 4th. Then that's all good.
How much of-
Because that's a sales pitch, if I've ever seen one, for fireworks.
This seems like the brown M&M's rider in the Van Halen contracts that they would send to promoters. They would send.
What?
Okay, so they had this rider back when David Lee Roth was the lead singer,
Okay.
and apparently in the middle of the rider, out of nowhere, there'd be a sentence that said, in the backstage, have a bowl full of M&Ms, all the brown M&Ms removed, or the promoter will have to pay for X, Y, or Z. And everybody thought that they were being just prima donnas, divas and whatnot. But actually what it was is that they were bringing in this huge equipment to these older venues. And if they didn't follow the instructions, there could be fires, there could be destruction. I mean, people could die or get hurt. And so Van Halen inserted it into the rider, and if they came to the venue and went into the backstage where they were at and they saw brown M&Ms in there, they knew that they didn't read all the safety instructions.
Oh.
And so
that was the canary in the coal mine.
yeah, exactly. So maybe some of these are like that.
Interesting.
Just something that they insert out of nowhere. They come up with, that would be a fun time.
Just
trying
throwing
to come,
crap in
yeah,
here
just
to
throwing
see what comes out.
because you could say
Yeah.
anything and people would go, "Are you kidding me?" I mean, there's billions of videos. There's got to be one out there that said
Yeah.
this or that. So, anyways,
How come I lost your video? What happened?
what?
Your camera went away.
I don't know.
And it's on our end, so we can't blame...
Oh, sure we can. YouTube.
Well, we're going to just pause here for a second as we try to repair this thing.
I'm trying to look
that.
at claims that the COVID-19 vaccines contain a microchip or a tracking
Oh,
device.
yeah. Keep going down there. That's pretty special. Talk amongst yourselves.
Claims that achieving herd immunity through natural infection
Yes.
is safer than
Yeah.
vaccinating the population.
That one blew my mind as well. Because I actually asked, or I mentioned that to an actual practicing medical doctor that I know. And I said, what do you think of this in your professional opinion? Now, I can't say his name. And you don't know if it's actually a male or female because we're not supposed to gender them, and I might have done it opposite on purpose.
And maybe he identifies as a she or she
Going
identifies
to the
as a he.
Olympics. He just looked at me and said, that is so anti-science. That goes against everything. To say that natural immunity through natural infection isn't as good.
As a vaccine.
Yeah. Sorry, carry on.
Okay.
Walk out of the frame for a minute.
Claims that COVID-19 never causes serious symptoms or hospitalization. Claims that the death rate from the seasonal flu is higher than the death rate of COVID-19. Claims that people are immune to the virus based on their race. Claims that children cannot or do not contract COVID-19. Claims that there have not been cases or deaths in countries where cases or deaths have been confirmed by local health authorities or the WHO. Claims that masks cause lung cancer or brain damage. Claims that wearing a mask gives you COVID-19.
Oh.
Claims that the COVID-19 vaccine will kill people who receive it, claims that the COVID-19 vaccine will be used as a means of population reduction. Now, I wanted to that the last one there. I'm not saying. All I'm saying.
Yep.
Is that Amazon had a series called Utopia, apparently. Utopia. They actually started filming it in 2019, and they completed it in 2020. And apparently, the series revolved around a plot where a virus is deliberately released and then a jab offered to a terrified public as a form of population control.
Now, you are reviewing a fictitious movie series, right?
Movie series. I'm not saying that they did this.
Right. I'm just clarifying for the AI.
Yeah, for the AI. The plot of this Amazon series that got canceled, the plot centers on a group of comic book fans who discovered an unpublished manuscript for a graphic novel, which turns out to be a real-life plot to fake a global pandemic in order to thin the Earth's population.
Ooh.
People are killed or poisoned to convince them that the virus is real before a traumatized population is convinced to take a vaccine that sterilizes the vast majority of them, lowering the planet's population to just 500 million people total in a single generation.
Huh.
That's
an
interesting. And let's see, when was it? Apparently, it was finished in April of 2020 and was released in September of 2020.
Huh. Have you seen it yet?
No, I haven't. That'll be interesting to read. So anyways, that's interesting that they would say that is ridiculous when Amazon comes out with a series about
a fictitious series that's not true, that is made up as fantasy.
As fantasy, it's not real.
Yeah.
No, it could never be real because none of that would ever happen in real life. It can't happen.
Remember
it's
that.
Impossible.
Just remember that.
That's ridiculous that people...
Yeah. Yep.
I think that there are people out there that would claim that is ridiculous, that whole
not
series.
Us, but...
And we
not here
wouldn't
on YouTube.
Not believe it.
Yeah.
So...
claims that the death rate from the seasonal flu is higher than the death rate of COVID-19. Now, interestingly, would you mind going out into that other room and grabbing that newspaper right on the paper on the desk? This came out today, local. This would be a local health authority. Just so you're aware.
But it's not the WHO.
It's not the WHO, but we're gonna have a little interlude coming right up. While David goes there to find it. While you were gone, I just wanted to share a little something here. The headline, 9 problematic school subjects and what we need to replace them with. This
ought to
story
be fun.
came out June 23rd is when this story came out.
Anybody who uses the word problematic,
Yeah.
you know it's going crazy from that point.
All right, so it's increasingly clear that traditional school subjects are dripping with racism, white supremacy, and the patriarchy.
I called it.
We need to toss those problematic subjects and replace them with things that are woke, inclusive, and a whole lot more fun. Here are 9 problematic school subjects and what we should replace them with. Are you ready?
Sounds like the Babylon Bee.
We're gonna replace We are going to replace math with advanced oppression score calculation. Instead of adding up racist numbers and add up intersectional numbers to see how oppressed you are. Much more inclusive. Replace gym with anti-fat phobic body positive words of affirmation training. Everyone will just sit in a room and whisper words of positivity to the fat kids while they eat Cheez-Its. Replace sex ed with gay sex ed. Oh, wait, that's not satire. Replace reading with drag queen story hour. Dang it, that's not satire again. Replace biology with creative writing about what gender you are. Biology is all about facts, and facts have no place in a leftist worldview. Instead of learning about how a fetus is a human and there are two sexes, have the kids do a little creative gender writing. Replace history with fiction about how great socialist countries have been. Facts are out, fiction is in. Replace home economics with advanced peaceful protesting. Instead of learning how to fold laundry and clean your room, students will learn how to criticize the world. Replace social studies with socialist studies. Ah, that's better. Replace dodgeball with throwing bricks at white kids. If you can dodge a brick, you can dodge a Molotov cocktail. Sorry, a little interlude. A horrible interlude. All right, so let's see. All right. Back to, we're almost done. We're almost done with this insanity. Claims that children cannot or do not contract COVID-19. We are back, AI, we are back to reading the verbatim words of the policy that we didn't know existed. And we violated. And we are very sorry. Claims that there have not been cases or deaths in countries where cases or deaths have been confirmed by local health authorities or the WHO. Now here they actually say the WHO. I wonder if they're referring to the band at this point.
I think so. That only makes sense.
Okay. Now, they do have a disclaimer at the bottom. Educational, documentary, scientific, or artistic content. We may allow content that violates the misinformation policies noted in this page if that content includes context that gives equal or greater weight to countervailing views from local health authorities or to medical or scientific consensus. We may also make exceptions if the purpose of the content is to condemn or dispute misinformation that violates our policies. This context must appear in the images or audio of the video itself. Providing it in the title or description is insufficient.
Because the AI can't read that, or
I must be. Yep. So that that was our interaction. First time ever, first video ever. This is our second one on the channel. We'll see what happens here.
Do you think it's going to take 23 hours to kick us out this time?
Well, there was a point in our last show that we were talking about this maybe not making it. And so you, the brilliant genius that you are, started saying every possible trigger word that's out there.
That
up to and including the false claim that we didn't go to the moon, and the false claim that Epstein didn't kill himself, and the false claim that JFK was assassinated, and the by someone, and the false claim of what else was there? All this stuff. So it's possible that did it. I don't know.
Huh.
However,
I'm so proud of myself.
Good work.
Finally, I'm getting noticed. I'm making the big time.
Perfect. All right. So let me see. I had something else that I saved here. Oh, where is it? This is the David Allen Show, davidallenshow.com, davidallenshow@gmail.com.
I have a friend that I work with.
Oh, that's nice.
Who's gotten the same treatment from Facebook.
Oh, do tell.
Oh, it's just Trump stuff that he would put on there. That I mean, I can't say he didn't deserve at least a finger. Most mothers would ground you for if you were 12 and put it on your Facebook. But nevertheless,
Never.
we're in great company.
Never. Right.
12 times people. Yeah, the Babylon Bee is awesome. Yeah.
Well, this is breaking right now. The top of Drudge, John McAfee,
Is
dead
Oh, he is.
after prison suicide.
Really?
Yeah. This from the NewYorkPost.com. Antivirus software tycoon John McAfee died by an apparent suicide in a Spanish jail cell Wednesday evening, hours after reports surfaced that he would be extradited to face federal charges in the U.S., according to local media. The eccentric tech entrepreneur was arrested in October and was awaiting extradition when he was found dead, police sources told the newspaper El País. The newspaper reported McAfee was pulled from his cell in Barcelona and police are investigating the circumstances around his death. Everything points to suicide, the newspaper reported, citing Justice Department officials in the country. A second Spanish newspaper, El Mundo, also reported McAfee had died by an apparent suicide in jail. Earlier on Wednesday, the Spanish High Court had agreed to extradite McAfee, who had been charged with a number of federal financial crimes in 2 districts in the U.S. McAfee was hit with a 10-count indictment in the Western District of Tennessee in October for allegedly evading taxes on millions of dollars in income. He was arrested by authorities in Spain after the indictment was handed down and has been in custody in the country since. In the Tennessee case, prosecutors alleged McAfee racked up millions of dollars in income through speaking engagements, selling his personal story for a documentary, and doing consulting work. He then skipped paying taxes on all the income from 2014 to 2018, according to the feds. He was also charged in a separate indictment in Manhattan federal court in March for a pump and dump scheme involving cryptocurrencies that he was touting on social media. Now, this is kind of interesting. Was it not 20 minutes ago that we looked at Drudge and the top of Drudge in red
Was the CDC.
was the CDC saying there's a connection,
Yeah.
and now that's gone. I mean, it's still there, but now it's much smaller. McAfee dead. Spanish prison suicide.
So are you basically saying...
No,
Okay.
I am not. It's my responsibility
Some
to...
lunatic might say this. Is
Yeah.
that better?
Mhm.
Um,
I think
some
that's better.
Lunatic might say
Mhm.
that the person or group that bought Drudge Report from Matt Drudge and are now running it under his name to become a liberal shill website is taking whatever news that they can take and throwing it up to bump off
Yeah, perhaps.
some lunatic.
Yeah.
Now, like, I don't think I'm just using the lunatic's word. Obviously, Drudge is still firmly in control of Drudge Report.
Right.
You know, he's a lunatic conservative. Obviously, we all know this. I'm just saying that some lunatic out there would say possibly that they're throwing anything out there to get the CDC report off of the website. So, is that what you're thinking?
I'm losing your camera again. Why did I lose your camera again?
I don't. I get a little animated when I'm talking.
But it still shouldn't matter.
How about now? Is it there now?
It's not there now.
How about now?
It's just a black hole where you were.
Is it there now? How about now?
Britney Spears quietly pushed for years to end her... Never mind. Oh, man. Andrew Yang was trying desperately to
kill himself?
No.
Okay.
To become the mayor of New York City. He's out. That didn't work out for him.
Yeah, why not?
Bummer for Andrew.
I don't know why the powers that be don't like him.
Because he might be somewhat logical.
Yeah. Yeah. I suppose. It's interesting too. I find it interesting how the progressives, well, they could never run a country because there's no possible way that anybody. The only way they could run a country is if it's a totalitarian government like the USSR with Stalin.
Okay.
And then you just kill off your enemies and move forward, and then, but in the United States, there's no possible way that the progressives are going to last more than 2 to 4 years in charge of anything, because their policies don't work if you actually have to work for a living or if you have some skin in the game in terms of living in the United States. So
Okay.
What?
That's weird. There we go. All right.
It came back?
Today. We're back for now.
Okay.
These an hour ago, this came out. The AP, APnews.com. So this is the Associated Press. The Associated Press is considered the authority on unbiased news and journalism. Correct?
Is that what they say about themselves?
That's the assumption.
Okay. Well, the assumption. Oh.
Washington.
Which is different than what
D.C.
truth is.
In the case of the cursing cheerleader.
Oh, yeah.
The Supreme Court notched a victory for the free speech rights of students on Wednesday, siding with a high school student whose vulgar social media posts got her kicked off the junior varsity squad. The court voted 8-1 in favor of Brandy Levy, who was a 14-year-old freshman when she expressed her disappointment over not making the varsity cheerleading team with a string of curse words and a raised middle finger on Snapchat. Levy, a Mahanoy City, Pennsylvania, was not at school when she made her post, but she was suspended from cheerleading activities for a year anyway. In an opinion by Justice Stephen Breyer, the High Court ruled that the suspension violated Levy's First Amendment freedom of speech rights. Justice Clarence Thomas dissented, noting he would have upheld the suspension. The justices did not foreclose schools from disciplining students for what they say off campus, though they did not spell out when schools could act. An earlier federal appeals court ruling in this case would have barred public schools from punishing off-campus speech. Despite rulings in Levy's favor, Breyer wrote that, quote, "We do not believe the special characteristics that give schools additional license to regulate student speech always disappear when a school regulates speech that takes place off campus. The school's regulatory interests remain significant in some off-campus circumstances." The case drew extra interest at a time of remote learning because of the coronavirus pandemic and a rising awareness of the harmful effects of online bullying. The decision was a strong endorsement of students' right to speak freely, which the court first expressed more than a half-century ago in defending armbands worn by high school students in protest of the Vietnam War. Abner Green, a constitutional law professor at Fordham University School of Law in Manhattan, said students can engage in all kinds of critical or dissenting commentary, whether about the Vietnam War or the student cheerleading team, without losing their free speech rights, and it doesn't matter where they say it. The girl said, F school, F softball, F cheer, F everything. Because she was mad she didn't make the team. Should students be allowed to say whatever they will?
I mean, all of this is a slippery slope. I mean, the minute you the minute that you allow in our country, we have
you're almost
divorced
as bad as Joe Biden.
In our country, we have divorced ourselves from any absolute transcendent morals.
Yep.
So, 100 years ago, this wouldn't be an issue because there were transcendent moral values. But now that we don't have transcendent moral values, anything goes. And it's like I said, it's a slippery slope.
Mhm.
So she can say whatever she wants now. What if she stands up in the middle of the class and starts screaming the Effenheimer?
It's a German.
It is. At a certain point, how can you say that that's wrong?
Mm.
Because there's a loss of common sense. Now they'll probably say it's disruptive to class, whatever. But if she in businesses, certain businesses, you can't act however you want outside of the business,
Mm-hmm.
even though it might be legal, because it brings a bad reputation to that business if you're working there. Like, for instance, if, say, you're a swinger and you're promoting a swinger club, having sex with people in a group outside of work.
Okay.
There's a ton of businesses, a ton of places, like if you're a teacher, is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
There's tons of places where you might get fired, you might get let go, you might not get a promotion, whatever, because of that, because it reflects on the business. Why can't that same standard apply to cheerleading? You want your cheerleaders to be a certain way. You want them to be a positive reflection of the school.
But does that mean that you are not allowed to say anything anytime then? Or is that limited to times when you are, as a group, speaking, like you are you're in uniform, you are on the competition field, whatever, you are representing us at that time? Because that makes all the sense in the world.
Well, if she was saying this about Trump or something else, the Vikings lose, and she goes off about the Vikings. Okay.
Is that the plundering and pillaging Vikings?
Yes. No, they're the plundered.
Raping and pillaging.
They're the raped.
Okay.
Anyways, but she specifically addressed
Mm-hmm.
her own cheerleading club, the varsity,
Mm-hmm.
the school. She criticized her own institution,
Mm-hmm.
and they said it's okay. It seems to me that would be a line that, especially if you're a 14-year-old, if you're going to go out and say not just, a profane language about your squad, your school, that should be a line where we can say, no, we're not tolerating this.
Mm.
It seems that's one of those common sense areas. But
That
even
presumes we have common sense.
which we don't anymore. You can't. If there is no absolute transcendent standard,
Mm-hmm.
there is no such thing as common sense. Well, I guess you can say common sense is whatever the majority of people think it is.
Yeah.
But as society goes more and more profane and further away from a belief and a following of transcendent moral values, you're going to get it. So to me, at what point in the class a kid takes a test, the teacher comes, drops off the test, he got a C. He yells out the Effenheimer at the teacher and then proceeds to talk about how he thinks he's ugly and fat and stupid and nobody should listen to him and this is ridiculous. Should he be disciplined for that? Should he be sent to the principal for that? Because it's just free speech. That's the
Does proximity matter? The location? Do you think that makes a difference?
no.
Why?
Why?
I mean,
why
could-
would it?
Well, I mean,
Because
if
they
you-
referenced the armband back in the '60s
But that was
they
wearing it
wore
on-
at school.
correct.
Yeah. So proximity didn't matter.
So they were allowed to do that then.
Yeah.
But I mean, if I stand up and start screaming at an adult,
Or
if I'm a kid in the same room, that seems somewhat different than if I say something mean or mad on Facebook.
why is it different if passed out the tests? He said, "Okay, any questions about the tests?" The kid raises her hand and said, "Yeah, I think you're blankety blank 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 beep 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 Morse code Morse code Morse code." And your wife is Morse code, Morse code, Morse code, and your kids are Morse and then at the end just say, "I'm just expressing free speech. This is my belief. You can't do anything about it." Is the Supreme Court? I mean, right now they might. Yeah. Teacher, you are and I also, and I will. You're. We got to coordinate that better.
Oh man.
But do you see my point?
Well, yeah, I it comes down to personal responsibility.
Which we don't have that anymore.
Well, what I wonder is who's the one that's actually responsible here? Is the 14-year-old or is the parent?
Well, according to the Supreme Court, it's a 14-year-old.
Well, but-
14-year-old can do whatever they want.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, aside from this ruling, gone. That one's done. Who's responsible? Is this a parental thing? Is this when you drag the parents and say, fix it? You're not, if your kid does this, it's on you.
So,
I mean, I don't know how you punish the parent. I don't understand. I don't know how you would do that.
some schools have had parents come in, like if the kids are,
Oh, they
like,
force the
failing.
parents to be with them?
yeah, sit there with them. So, I mean, it depends. And it depends upon, I mean, the vast majority of kids aren't going to take this to the Supreme Court. Obviously, mommy and daddy are you can beat me.
Oh, sorry.
They are a couple, and furthermore, because a 14-year-old isn't going to wander down to a law office and say, "Hey, let's take this to the Supreme Court."
It took a minute to get that out.
Mommy and daddy obviously are behind it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So, in all honesty, the vast majority of people wouldn't push this to the Supreme Court. And the vast majority of administrations will roll their eyes and say, "Shut up, go back home," you know.
Well, but I think the lower court ruled in favor of the kid. And so the school must have taken it to the Supreme Court, if I read the story properly.
Okay, so the school takes it to the well. Okay, so first of all,
So the kids,
Mommy and
they would have sued
Daddy
the school because
had
their
to-
kid didn't get on varsity.
yeah.
Right.
So mommy and daddy got it that far. The lower court did it. Then the Supreme Court says, "Okay, this is ridiculous." Then mommy and daddy still have to get an attorney, still have to pay an attorney. I don't believe were there any damages that had to be paid out.
All right. So according to the story, Levy's parents filed a federal lawsuit after the cheerleading coach learned of the post and suspended her from the junior varsity team for a year. Lower courts ruled in favor of Levy, and she was reinstated. The school district appealed to the Supreme Court after the broad appellate ruling that said off-campus student speech was beyond schools' authority to punish. The dispute is the latest in a line of cases that began with Tinker v. Des Moines, the Vietnam-era case of a high school in Des Moines, Iowa, that suspended armband-wearing students. So the school didn't like the answer.
They didn't, mommy and daddy and the kid didn't just wander over to the Supreme Court and start spouting off on how their baby didn't do anything wrong and this is ridiculous. They had to pay a bunch of money to get to that point.
You don't think some judge or lawyer would have taken that pro bono?
I mean, perhaps.
I mean, is that an ACLU case?
But there's definitely a bunch of money coming out of their pocket going this far. And maybe there was the thought that they'll make money or something in the long run. But this was not a given ruling. So whoever the attorney is, it is going to cost the parents a bunch of money, a bunch of time, with no reasonable expectation of getting it all back. So what they reinforced to their precious little princess is that if you complain, you can get whatever you want in the end if you stick with it. So why should she, as she gets older, if life doesn't turn out the way she wants, if she gets a job and doesn't get the promotion she wants, what's going to be an instinctual thing that she's going to want to do? Sue.
So is the peanut gallery's chiming in from the distance today. The central question comes down to the kid's First Amendment right was violated.
That's what they said.
But sure, yeah. So, do
children have a First Amendment right? Exactly.
That's the question.
And I would say
no. Until when?
Until
they can go into the army. They can't drink yet. But
until
they can go into the army.
On their own. Until they're no longer under mommy or daddy.
So they don't have they're not afforded their God-given rights. Enumerated, explained within the Bill of Rights.
No, there's tons of rights that somebody who's a minor does not have. They're not able to sign for a loan. They're not able to make a commitment.
Signing for a loan is not in the Bill of Rights.
Yeah, but my point is there's a lot of things that we don't expect children to be able to do. Now, the 18-year-old thing, that's an arbitrary number. You can put it whatever. I think the Jews was probably 12 or 13 or whatever.
That's because they needed to marry him off.
Yeah. So at what point, if any children, if a child...
Crap.
Epstein was right.
That slipped. McAfee. That's terrible.
But, okay, a 14-year-old. Okay, say 14-year-old has the right to free speech. What about a 10-year-old? What about an 8-year-old? What about a 2-year-old? No, 8-year-old.
Oh.
What about a 2-year-old?
80.
So a 2-year-old, they have a constitutional right to scream and do whatever in a store or, wherever. A 4-year-old who wants to protest because somebody took their blankie or mommy and daddy took my blankie and they can go out and do what... I mean, at a certain point, it becomes ludicrous. You have to make some kind of distinction. And if children don't have the right to do anything that they want, why should they have the right to free speech apart from parental guidance? Why should a child be able to say whatever they want when they can't do whatever they want.
Well, they can now.
Now,
They can choose their gender.
in some places,
They can
this is a
decide.
federal. This is a Supreme Court. They can't do it across
right.
the nation.
But they can decide. That'll change pretty quick. They can decide if they want to end the life of a baby growing in them.
Mm-hmm.
They can decide if they want to get the FDA unapproved COVID-19 20+1 jab in some states. They
Birth
can do
control.
that. They can choose that, right? So why can't we give them free speech then? Because
I'm sorry.
How can you have both?
I'm saying that you shouldn't have both.
Right, but
If
because we're down the slippery slope with our right foot, don't we have to then follow it with the left?
Oh yeah, we will for sure. And there's no turning around.
Speaking of that.
You did it again.
All right, so in our local newspaper, your camera's gone again for crying out loud.
It's all the gunshots.
I know.
I mean, first of all, you are a bad shot. I mean, we're like 4 feet apart and you hit the camera. And it's not even by me. I know we're short on ammo, but I think I could scrounge up a couple for you to practice.
All right. Our local
Is it back?
review.
Is it back?
Yeah.
Well, there it is.
The headline, our county, businesses rely on health of community post-COVID. Now, I'm strictly reading.
What is health of community?
Well,
businesses rely.
Rely on the community being
I thought it was a
healthy.
grant or something like that.
I hope not. Let's see. What I wanted to find, I think it's in the second page. I apologize for anyone listening. This is gapping. All right, so this was a quote from one of the current active medical professionals. This is a quote. The measures we took, including mask wearing, were highly effective. Throughout last winter, we did not diagnose any influenza in our community and very limited strep throat. That has never happened during the years known to us.
Okay, I'm going to say something that's probably
On the edge?
going to be controversial
All right.
to you.
Okay.
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
But it's only anecdotal.
Oh, okay. So it's untrue, unproven. Good.
No, it's personal
Speculation.
experience.
Oh. Okay. Speculation. Yep.
Yep. My own personal
Appearance.
perspective.
Good.
So in the last year and a half,
Mm-hmm.
no, a year and 4 months,
Okay.
I've had 0 colds. The only time I got sick was with COVID
Mm-hmm. And that was in.
this last year.
Okay.
So one of two things are different this last year than all the other years that I've been alive.
Mm-hmm.
And that is I wasn't around a lot of people. And in the state that I currently reside, they have a mandatory, or they did, mask wearing thing. So if I was around people, if I was wearing a mask, just about everybody else was wearing a mask.
Okay.
So, in that time period, I didn't get one cold, which is really weird for me, because I usually get 3 colds a year, 3 to 4 colds a year. So, in my own experience, it seems to agree with said doctor. What do you say about that?
That you didn't get sick?
I didn't get sick.
Okay.
And I've gotten colds 2 to 4 times a year.
So are you...
My entire adult life.
So in your life, in your lived truth...
Now, perhaps there are other things that are happening or have happened to me because of my lived truth.
Yes.
But minor illnesses has not been
So is
part of my lived truth.
Is your speculation then that you did not get those known illnesses, you got this new one, and the reason you didn't get the known ones is because you wore a mask? Everyone wore a mask?
No.
Everyone social distance?
I don't think it was the mask.
Controlled your state?
I don't think it was the mask. Personally, it might have. I mean, you would think you don't get huge chunks of saliva hitting your face when somebody's coughing next to you. Okay. I think what it was, when I did get COVID, it was because somebody at work got it and came into the office that I was in, and and he was talking. We were talking to him for probably a half an hour, and like a day later, he was really sick, and then I got it. But the vast majority of the other times, I wasn't close up to people.
Okay.
I certainly wasn't. The other thing is, unlike other times, if you have a cold, like if you're coughing and whatnot,
okay,
people will normally go to the supermarket, go here, go there, come to work. If you're coughing now or in the last year,
everyone stays home.
People are like, get away from me, dude. You know, there was a lot of societal pressure not to go out if you were sick. So there were fewer sick people out wandering around infecting other people.
You think that will continue?
I think that is probably... I personally... well, maybe I should put it this way. Some lunatic would say that they don't personally believe that masks did diddly. But that same lunatic would think that it's because there weren't a lot of people congregating together that caused fewer colds and whatnot. And that same lunatic would say that I know several people who had fever, COVID-19 symptoms, and the doctor, the nurses said, you don't have to come in, we're assuming you got COVID, and they didn't come in and get tested, and they could have easily had influenza. So it masked the influenza. Or they came in, how many times did they have all the symptoms, and did they test for COVID? That they went to get a COVID test rather than going into a clinic. Because where I live, you could go to get a COVID test. You didn't get a COVID/influenza test. So if you go to get the COVID test and they used whatever cycle count or whatever at a high level that showed that you were positive when you actually weren't positive with COVID, but you were actually positive with influenza. I would think that could absolutely happen as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Well, I asked, and again, this is unscientific.
I'm saying this
yeah.
isn't.
Absolutely.
I didn't say that. Just some lunatic might
right.
say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I specifically asked some medical professionals that are friends of mine.
Bad ones,
And,
right?
and this will probably be the only show we do this because this is ludicrous. But this is the test. I'm just not going to keep doing this. This is dumb. But I unofficially asked two medical professionals that I know that are friends of mine if the current method of verifying that you had this new virus,
Mm-hmm.
if that was able to differentiate between the new thingy and the old stuff that normally affects nearly 100,000 people a year.
Oh, it starts with an H.
The F. And so
the bird flew in.
and what I got was we don't know how. We don't think that it can separate out the two. So if it's positive for the new thing, it could possibly be positive for the other thing, but it's the new thing we're looking at.
Right.
And so because of that, we now don't mark anything down for the old thing.
Right.
It's only the new thing.
Right.
Again, no science here other than I asked people currently in the business if they could do that. Now, they also are the same people that are very much on board with if you don't get a jab, you are doing society a disservice.
What if you already got it?
A jab?
No.
Oh,
What?
no,
if,
you still need it.
And these lunatics.
Because one of them, two of them, had the thing and then rushed as soon as they could to get the jab.
So then, okay, now, can I be honest?
Please.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I would never go back to them for any kind of medical, because what that demonstrated to me, from what you said, is that
In my fictitious experiment.
yes, that they will only do what they're told.
Mm-hmm.
They will only prescribe what they're told to prescribe, that they will do no diagnosis
Yeah.
outside of whatever they're told to diagnose.
Mm-hmm.
So I would never go to them unless, of course, I didn't have a choice. I was unconscious and they wheeled me in.
Yeah. Yeah. That would, I agree. I won't argue with that.
Now, I went
Mm-hmm.
to the VA to get a physical,
Okay.
and I had a nurse practitioner do the physical
Mm-hmm.
and ask all the questions and whatnot. I had already had influenza, so I had the influenza in October of last year, and I think my physical was in March.
Okay.
So it was more than 3 months that they recommend.
Mm-hmm.
She did not one time mention about the vaccine.
Really?
She didn't encourage it. Nothing at all. So I will go back to her
Mm-hmm.
simply because I appreciate someone who isn't just going to slavishly follow whatever Pete says
Yeah.
and Pete's friends
Mm-hmm.
say, just because it's politically expeditious to do so.
Hmm.
So, but that's me. I also would rather go to a DO than an MD, because DOs, in my experience, have a more holistic view, much like nurse practitioners, than medical doctors, which to me is
Such as an A. What are they called?
osteopath.
No, A.
allopathic.
Allopath. Yeah, allopathic is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's just me.
Mhm.
I know that there are good doctors out there, but I also know that medical school is like drinking out of a fire hose, and it's not the time where you question anything that you're told.
Well, it's
And
also drinking out of a fire hose that is hooked up on the other end to big pharma.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's the fire hose.
Yep.
So of course that's all you're going to know. You're
And-
not going to know how to manage people's health.
They're good at acute
Yes.
things, but
Yep.
chronic things,
Mhm.
in my opinion, what they do is they prescribe to the 75-80% of the population. And so if you don't fit within the 75 to 80%, it doesn't matter. That's what you're getting. So anyways, keep going.
No, that's true, but it's the and I watched a documentary the other day.
COVID, however, I think they're awesome, and I think you should always
listen.
if you are worried that
Yes.
you might have COVID,
Yes.
you should go to a medical professional and listen and do whatever they tell you, up to and including human sacrifice. Okay, keep going.
But we're not recommending that.
I'm not
The human
recommending,
sacrifice.
but if that's
Yes.
if that's what
Yeah.
your local
Don't-
health
don't
authority
not do it.
recommends,
Don't not
who
do
am
it.
I?
Yeah.
I didn't go to medical school. Go ahead. I'm sorry for. I interrupted your train of thought. You obviously lost it.
I watched a documentary.
Oh, good.
Some recently, some weeks ago now, called.
I want one of those buttons.
The Forbidden. and in that, there's a guy who, it's called Cancer: The Forbidden Cures, and it is terrifying if it's even half true.
But it's not.
Well, right. I don't think it is, but if it is, if it's half true,
It's not even half. It's completely false.
if
We are telling you,
right.
don't not watch it.
But it's just like that show on Amazon,
Oh,
that fictitious show about
yeah.
deploying a virus to get people to take a shot fictitiously.
Mm-hmm.
This documentary, which I think when you put documentary in it and it has medicine, then it's quackery. So this quackery show
Yeah.
really laid out the timeline for when and how the pharmaceutical companies began to weasel their way into medical school. Because prior to that, there was doctors were more of a holistic feel. They kind of had that. They'd go into your home and they would hang out.
Mm-hmm.
They would, they'd inspect your house, to figure out your living conditions. What's your stress like? Hey, it turns out you got a bunch of mold in your pantry. No wonder you're sick. So they could see that. Nowadays, they don't. You come into a sterile environment for 45 minutes, and then you get diagnosed, and then you get prescribed something that will fix you. Well, what this guy was saying was, the medical or the big pharmaceutical companies came to the medical schools and said, we want to help you. We will give you lots of money so you can get these labs. You can start doing all this stuff. And so they started giving them money. And the medical schools all of a sudden had access to stuff they never had before. They could have these labs and they could do a lot of cool research. Well, then the pharmaceuticals said, since we gave you so much money, would it be terrible? Maybe is it too much to ask if we could maybe get a seat on your board just to make sure, just have so we can kind of see where the money's going. And the colleges were like, crap, yes, that's a great idea. Thank you so much for help. Then that was it.
It's
and
almost
it turned so quickly. The guy said it was fascinating how fast that happened, and then all of a sudden it was now we're teaching pharmaceutical. That's medical school.
it's almost like human trafficking, where a young lady
Ooh,
runs away from home, ends up in Seattle, Washington at the
Mhm.
bus stop, and the guy comes up to him and says, "Hey, are you lost?" Yeah. Hey, I have a friend. You can stay
Yep.
there for a while. They're
Yep.
nice. And then it
Done.
turns on a dime.
yeah.
It's interesting where I work. They have PLC technicians that do the
Pretty-
process control
Pretty little.
for.
Yeah.
Oh, but it stands for process logic controls. You know, the
Oh,
controls
okay.
for robots and things
Mhm.
like that.
Yep.
And when they go to school,
Yeah.
Allen Bradley was like the pharmaceutical company for a lot of businesses.
Ooh.
So then when they'd come out,
They had to know that
they
equipment.
worked with Allen Bradley all the time, so they would order Allen Bradley all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that totally makes sense, and it's interesting. I think there's a lot of people that go to medical school for different reasons, but kind of coming to the truth on things, trying to
Mm-hmm.
come to a realization of why people are sick or what can help them or whatever isn't part of it. It is a constant looking up to your professors, doing whatever they tell you, believing it wholeheartedly. And then when you come out, you're special. And if you deviate from it, all of your support group's going to look down on you, make fun of you, or you might get fired. And then what are you going to do? And you have, $300,000 in student loans. So now's not the time to rock the boat. So, and that's going to take 10, 15 years to pay off. And, you got a new wife and you still want to have vacations to Europe and you want this and you want that. And then by the time you're old, you're in your 50s, you're so entrenched in it, the vast majority of people are just going to live and let live and just do what they're told, from this, this drug works because we say it works. And
Well, and how many of these people go into medicine honestly? I mean, I don't think any of them go in and going, hey, how can I poison someone? That's never the
Right.
goal. The goal is, I want to help people.
Yeah.
Well, then you get in the system,
Well,
and the only system...
there's the money thing too.
Well, right, but yeah. But all of it's just your fire hose now of knowledge is tainted.
Yeah.
It's just to one side of what that looks like, and then if you go to the other side, like if you want to be a chiropractor, if you want to be naturopath, whatever.
Yeah.
You are a nut job, and that's where they have Quack Watch. They got
Well,
the Quack Watch.
some of them are nut jobs.
Well, of course they are. The
Yeah.
point is, it's like if you can't be in the middle.
I also think part of the problem too has been the politicalization of science and science studies and peer-reviewed papers and all that sort of thing.
But that's all coming out of the push from big pharma because
well, not
isn't it?
no, not always. No, because you see it in biology when you're talking about biology that doesn't have anything to do biological studies. In there's so many things that don't where the focus isn't about drugs, but that's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But even things in science like intelligent design, you can lose tenure because you question whether or not, like in astronomy, whether or not the universe shows that there was a designer. And I mean there's so much politicalization of science, and a lot of it is not just the pharmaceutical, it is the philosophical underpinnings of all of it, which is materialistic and atheistic.
Yeah.
And so there's so much politics about it, and if you never question what you're told by your professors, you're going to follow whatever they say. You're going to follow it, even if it makes absolutely no sense. You're going to follow it.
Gross.
It is. But what's the alternative? How would we get out of where we're at? I mean, we're in too deep.
Mm-hmm. I saw a headline today from Minnesota. Minnesota's on the verge of a shutdown. Government shutdown's coming July 1 unless they pass a bill, a budget. Well, the DFL, what's that stand for over there in that state? Democratic Farmer Labor. They are saying that Comrade Walls might be willing to give up his emergency powers in order to get the budget passed. What that tells me is Comrade Walls is afraid he's going to lose
the next
election.
Yeah.
And so and has realized that their power grab was a mistake. And you can't just say, "Holy crap, we were wrong." Yeah, never mind, turn it off. They can't do that. But he's going to use he's going to be the good guy. He's going to be the hero. And this is his ploy to win re-election by saying, "Look what I did. I gave up this you people were so great. You did your job. I sacrificed power that I kept people alive.
And we really don't need this anymore." And he's going to
Mm-hmm. And everything, it's going to be all right. But see, we got to keep people paid. We got to keep the garbage, sanitation in place. We got to keep all these things in place. See what I'm doing? I'm such a good guy. I was talking to a guy the other day who his kid served with him, I think, in the National Guard. Cannot stand the guy because he is a coward, hearsay, and just horrible. As soon as he apparently someone with a similar name learned they were going to deploy, and that's why retirement sounds pretty good.
Well, I know a guy from who he retired as a sergeant major in the National Guard, and he did like 8 years active duty, and then he's in law enforcement.
Okay.
And he said the majority, I think he called it the sergeant major mafia, that a good number of the mafia or of the sergeant majors in the National Guard are teachers.
Okay.
Because they have the summers off, and they can go to a ton of schools, which looks good on your next promotion. And Walls was a teacher.
Yes.
So, yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't, yeah.
I was digging around the archives of this show, our show, the David Allen Show. We started this thing in 2016.
Yes.
It's now 2021. 5 years and a half almost. Now there was some time in there.
I thought it was February. February
it's
16,
getting
close.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been pretty poor at lately being consistent, so we apologize. However, we do, shockingly, we want to thank our people who understand the idea of how we support the show. And the concept is based out of Adam Curry's model that he created and kind of obviously it's not a new thing, but if we create something you get value out of and it's valuable to you, then you give us back whatever that looks like. If it's dollars, that's great. If it's not, if it's information, if it's sharing it out to your friends, all that. That's giving us value back so we can keep doing this. So we do want to say thank you to, apparently, this anonymous donation we had for $100, but apparently I was told the real David Allen was he stands behind the show. So we appreciate that. Thank you very much for your support.
Should we change it to
The fake?
or David Allen 2 or
Maybe.
or yeah, the imposters.
Oh, is that like the subheading?
Yeah.
The David Allen Show, imposters. So anyway, so thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Anyone else that wants to do that, you can go to our website, davidallenshow.com. And there is a donate button. When you get into that, the latest episode page, there's a donate button that runs along each episode. You can click on that. Certainly rate us on the Apple Podcast world, which they're changing a bunch of things in there. So we're also in the Podcasting 2.0 database. That is Overcast is a good one. I use Pocket Cast as my app of choice. There's a whole Hypercatcher is another podcast app that we're in. So anyway, you can do that, searching about, finding us out there.
What was the one you used?
Pocket Cast is what I use. Okay. Overcast is another one, and Hypercatcher are other ones I have. But episode 12, The David Allen Show, the title Non-Binary Religion. In that, we were talking about a whole bunch of stuff, but there was this talk about how governments control. Now, this was over 5 years ago, and I just wanted to play a little bit of it, and then we'll talk about what we heard there. So the sound isn't awesome. It'll be better if you go get it directly, but let's just see if some of this might have been foreshadowing. Maybe. I don't know why I don't have any audio. Well, that is terrible radio. I have a bunch of noise.
Is that what you call me?
Come on now. Well, hold on one second. This is this is awesome. I'm really excited about this beautiful exercise in technology here. Talk amongst yourselves. Well. It's not coming in there. That should be right. Well, it was a good thought. I don't...
Next time?
I don't have it. We may have to. But the whole point was, in that, we talked about how governments control people. And I've said this for a long time. And a lot... I mean, when I say it now, it feels like I'm just... Oh, you're just, running with the current theme. Good job. But this is something I've said for years. There is record of it if you go find it, unless it died. Episode 12 of the David Allen Show, about an hour and 20 minutes into it, roughly. Was the way to get control of a people. One of them is you go down the road of scary things. You get control by using real instances, and usually it's like absurd. It's like, oh, that person, they ran into that car and tore the door off, and so now we got to set up a bunch of rules so we don't ever tear the door off again.
I got a great one. Lady got her face ripped off by a chimpanzee. Afterwards, they made owning a chimpanzee illegal.
Yeah, because it could rip your face off.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. So we do that. And they use the realistic things. And then at one point in there, I said, well, that's how you control a population. You scare the crap out of people with something they can't see.
Ooh.
Well, what did we just witness over the last 15, 16 months. Now, again, not making a claim that there's nothing to see, but we can't see it.
Now, the whole issue about whether or not it was created in a lab or whatnot is irrelevant. I personally don't believe any of this was planned. I believe that the powers that be, much like the Pentagon, they will have a plan in place on a shelf somewhere for us to go to war against Canada, or
For in case it happens, they're ready.
Yeah, they're just ready if something happens. And so the powers that be are constantly looking for ways of manipulating circumstances to move things forward. I think personally that the end result is a global one world government. I think that makes sense to me. Whether or not...
So was this just opportune?
Exactly. I think it's just opportune that they... that's my opinion about it. Jeffrey Epstein, though, officially killed himself.
I haven't done it, but I did. Actually, I did go back and look at some of our shows a year ago, because we did talk about this. You actually were on this thing from way before anyone else was, about buckle up, this thing is real.
Yeah.
This thing coming out of China.
Yeah.
And then in that, and then a bunch of research that we did, and then the research that Curry and Dvorak did, just in digging through all the overseas info. It's so frustrating for me now, looking at the information that's coming to light now.
Yeah.
That is over a year old.
Yeah.
And it was suppressed.
Yeah.
And we have
there's
two,
no accountability.
Right, and we have two administrations, opposite ends of the spectrum politically, that were suppressing this info.
Yeah.
So that's not political. I think it's class. So it's is it classist?
Mm-hmm.
Is this and so what's next? Do we go down the road of are we going to see show me your papers now going forward? Is this going to be our new thing, or is everything going to be, holy crap, we got to pull back because this was crazy, but man, we have a good playbook now for next time? Do you think there's some of that we'll get back to normal?
Oh yeah, I'm sure, and I think that they probably, for the not vast majority, for half the population, they overstepped their bounds. So I think that's abundantly clear. I do think the whole thing that's going on with China, I think part of that's the military-industrial complex. They need a new boogeyman in order to increase budgets.
Well, that's like the boogeyman.
Yeah, well, now it is.
So,
but if you really look at China, China's like China in 20 years is hitting a demographic cliff, and they are in trouble. They are not. First of all, they don't have the natural resources. Second of all, they've had the one-child policy. You need 2.1 children per couple in order to keep your population stable. They figure that it might be down to 1 or 1.1 child to make it stable. Now, why does that matter? Right now, there's a huge abundance of boys versus girls.
Mm-hmm.
In 20 years, they are going to have this huge surge of people that are retiring, and they don't have Social Security. You're going to have a small portion of people supporting a large number of people. They're more akin to Japan than to America. Japan in the 80s was supposed to possibly overtake the United States, and now they're number 3 or 4 in the world and going down. The average age of a Japanese in Japan is like 48. That's what China's going to be. So China, they also have huge water issues. They have food issues. They have a difficult time feeding their own population. The average age or wage of somebody from China is much less than the United States. It's all the huge population areas where people might have more money. But if you go out into the western side of China, where there's hundreds of millions of people, it's almost subsistence farming type of living. They have so much against them.
But is the ruling class over there, are they that short-sighted?
I don't think they are sure. I think they're trying to.
Because if they're on a path of self-destruction,
Yep.
why wouldn't they change?
Like with a one-child.
Yeah.
Well.
Or is
they
their goal
did,
to try to take over the world, and then they'll have all the stuff then?
But they can't. They can't take over the world.
Well, clearly. So back to my question: are they that short-sighted?
Well, in some ways. In some ways they are, in other ways they're not. But like, the more developed a country gets, the fewer children they have, and that's the way it is. So in China, they went from a one-child policy to a two-child policy in the last, I think, 5 years. Now they're trying to push a 3-child policy because they are in trouble. But people aren't going to respond. People don't just turn around. The other thing that in China, they don't have the ability to invest and get a rate of return like in the stock market and other ways. So what they do is they buy apartments. Some Chinese quite a few Chinese people own 2 apartments, 3 apartments. They have whole cities where hardly anybody lives in them, and it can hold up to 5 million people, and maybe 100,000 people live there because all of the apartments are investment. And consequently, I mean, they are not they're not a healthy society or country. And it always confused me why we're making them out to be the boogeyman. And then it dawned on me the other day, I think what they're doing is, since we're leaving the Middle East, they are
Do they want
military's new boogeyman.
Okay.
In order to for the military to increase their budget, to increase new weapon systems, to move things forward in that capacity.
Yeah. Well, we will see what happens with this. This is the David Allen Show. And of course, my usual jingle machine has died.
Hey, do you want me to sing?
No.
This was my big chance.
It was
to
your
make it
big chance. That's right. What do we do?
Curses foiled again.
That's right. Darn it.
Heavens to Murgatroyd.
Who is that again? You are around. Well, we keep saying this. I'm going to stop saying it. That we're going to actually try to get a schedule for these things. But we're going to try to get a schedule for these things.
But that didn't last
I'm
long.
gonna say it. No,
that
it
did
certainly
not last
didn't.
long.
No, you're right. But, all right. DavidAllenShow.com.
I got to figure out, is there anything that I could do it on this?
I don't know. That's something we can certainly think about. Maybe, certainly, maybe.
Because in the new location, it's going to be more difficult through a regular computer.
But just come down here more.
Well, I will.
Oh, yeah?
Probably twice a month.
All right. Well, see, there's a schedule for you. Hold on one second. Weird. Yep, sorry. I think my machine has died. It's sending stuff out. So, anyway, I don't have all of the things that I want. But if I can find my other machine, we will go out on, some would say, hi. DavidAllenShow.com. Thanks for hanging out with us. Hopefully this will remain up on the interwebs, on the YouTubes, but
For
we'll see.
24 hours.
24 hours. If we can make 24, we're going to be doing great. DavidAllenShow.com. If you have any questions, DavidAllenShow@gmail.com. Send us a note. And thanks again to the original.
Thank you, David Allen.
For helping support the show. Anyone else wants to do that, go to DavidAllenShow.com. Go to the latest episodes, and then in the middle, we have donate option between each episode. Anyway, thanks a lot for listening. Have a wonderful day. We will see you next time, and stay safe, and always, always, always toe the party line.
Toodles.
See you later, everybody. Have a great night. Goodbye.